Before I even get started, I'm just going to address the two elephants in the room. Yes, this is a motorcycle, and no, we don't normally test motorcycles. Also, yes, this is a CFMOTO motorcycle, and while that might surprise a lot of people in North America, if you live overseas, it's not surprising at all because CFMOTO has been making motorcycles for a long time. The company was founded in 1989 and has been building motorcycles of all sizes, as well as ATVs and side-by-sides ever since. What this means is that while CFMOTO motorcycles are relatively new to us, they are not new at building motorcycles. From the very second this IBEX 800 rolled off the trailer at our office, literally every dirt track staffer was blown away by how high quality and refined it looked and felt. If this is how CFMOTO motorcycles are built, I have absolutely no complaints. I do want to talk about why we think it makes sense for dirt tracks to test a motorcycle like the IBEX 800 Explorer. Yes, it is intended to go off-road, but there's a lot more to it than that. We know from our own market research and that of other firms also that ATV and side-by-side owners also own a plethora of other power sports vehicles. From watercraft to snowmobiles to motorcycles, if you own an ATV or side-by-side, it's very likely you own something else as well. We also know that the adventure class of motorcycles is one of the fastest growing in the industry, so it only makes sense that a large number of ATV and side-by-side buyers would either own one already or be seriously considering one. Now, I personally know this because I'm one of those people. I've ridden motorcycles for many years. So far, without exception, the bikes I've owned have been sport bikes or naked bikes. But even I have to admit, the appeal of an adventure bike like the IBEX 800 is pretty strong. Being able to ride comfortably all day on whatever type of road surface I feel like while hauling a pile of my stuff in sealed hard bags, well, that just seems like a perfect combination. All versions of the IBEX 800 are powered by a 94 horsepower 799cc parallel twin cylinder engine with a 270-degree crank. This means that while it is a parallel twin, it sounds more like a V-twin, which is good because V-twins sound friggin' amazing. But what's interesting is that this is the same engine as KTM's 790 parallel twin. KTM and CFMOTO have worked together to develop this engine, and it's used in multiple places across both of their lines. It also has a drive-by-wire throttle and 6 different riding modes. Now, these riding modes don't just adjust the drive-by-wire throttle curve though. They also adjust certain parameters like front and rear ABS, both cornering and regular, and both dynamic and standard traction control. On paved surfaces, I kept it in sport mode with all electronic interventions turned on. In the dirt, I pretty much stuck to all-terrain plus mode with all the electronic interventions turned off. This worked for me, but there are other options to suit any riding style. Now, this 800's power feels a little soft on the bottom thanks in large part to its 56.8 pound-feet of torque peaking at 7,800 RPM. But power builds quickly, it's past 5,000 RPM, and when you hit 7,000 RPM, things get real exciting. Passing on the highway was never a problem, and cruising at 70 miles per hour was comfortable with only the slightest vibrations coming through the handlebars. Off-road, the power was very manageable and never felt intimidating or too abrupt. It was easy to maintain a steady speed and throttle inputs felt smooth and controlled. If I had to pick on one thing about this engine, it would be how it idles when it's cold. Now, before the engine builds some heat, the idle is very rough and uneven, and this continues on as you let the clutch out in first gear. Once the engine builds some heat though, this seems to go away completely. My ride impressions of the IBEX 800 are entirely positive on the pavement. It has stable and confidence-inspiring handling in the corners, even when speeds get higher. The suspension is supportive and not wallowy, though a little bit harsh on the smaller, sharper bumps. I do have to say that the off-road handling of the IBEX 800 left something to be desired though. It felt unstable on loose surfaces, and the front end felt like it wanted to wash out in the sand or really loose rocks or gravel. I'm not sure how much of this is the actual bike itself versus the tires. The tires are Michelin Anaki Adventures and definitely appear to be a 70-30 bias towards on-road riding. I'd like to try a set of 50-50 tires and see how they improve the handling on dirt roads and trails. Suspension is provided by KYB in the form of a 160mm travel inverted fork in the front with full adjustability and a coilover shock in the rear that has preload and rebound adjustability and yields 150mm of rear wheel travel. Overall, I found the suspension compliant and comfortable on the road while still offering excellent support under hard cornering and braking. Off-road, the rear end felt good in all situations, but the fork felt harsh on sharper edge bumps and potholes. It wasn't terrible, and I hesitated to soften it up for fear of it becoming too soft on the pavement. Adventure motorcycles have become some of the most technologically packed units in any manufacturer's lineup, and the IBEX 800 Explorer is no exception for CFMOTO. This is basically a fully jammed adventure bike that is on par with only the very top of the line models from other manufacturers. It's littered with bits of cool technology that are included standard, like a quick shifter, rear radar system, heated grips, heated driver's seat, large full-color TFT touchscreen display with navigation and smartphone connectivity, fog lights, and electronic cruise control. However, CFMOTO has done with the IBEX 800 Explorer what they always seem to do with their ATVs and side-by-sides. They take factory-installed equipment one step further than the competition by including a full set of lockable hard luggage, skid plates, crash bars, and handguards. I searched around and tried to find another 800 class adventure bike that included this many features right from the factory, and I just couldn't find one, let alone find one in the same price category. Simply put, from the standpoint of included equipment for the money, the IBEX 800 Explorer is an outstanding value. But all this technology and all of these features are worthless if they don't combine to make an outstanding motorcycle. And in this case, I really think they do. If nothing else, they certainly combine to make an incredibly comfortable motorcycle. The seat height is very manageable for an average size adult. I'm 6'1" and could reach the ground on both sides with more than just my toes. The seat is comfortable for long distances and it's heated if you ever feel you need that. Likewise, the heated grips are excellent and allowed me to forego my bulky gloves in favor of my lighter ones without freezing my digits off. I also really like the seat to handlebar measurement and felt like I could comfortably cruise in this position for hours when the opportunity presented itself. Wind protection was very good at any speed, and with the windshield adjusted all the way up, I found the wind buffeting was only really noticeable at speeds above 70 miles per hour or when following a bigger vehicle. I did notice a few things that became annoying the more I rode the IBEX though, mostly all related to the display and switchgear. First, the display has a glossy finish, which shows reflections and fingerprints like crazy. A matte finish screen protector would be a big upgrade. And second, the switchgear is overwhelming. There are just a lot of buttons. The important ones are actually quite intuitive, but the ones related to the display clutter up the left side switchgear a lot. I found I'd often hit the horn button when canceling the turn signals because the signal switch was jammed in between the D-pad and the horn. Third, I don't have a headset in my helmet, so I couldn't test the phone or music functions of this display. But I did get the GPS set up and found that it'll only give you route guidance if it's connected to your cell phone's 5G hotspot. It does have built-in GPS, but it doesn't include the ability to search for destinations unless it has internet access. I know there's a better way to do this. Finally, when you first turn the key on, the display shows a wide gauge layout that takes up the entire screen. It's big and really easy to read. Then after a few seconds, it switches to a smaller, more compact layout of the gauge that takes up the left end of the display and shows the smart features of the display like the phone, music, and navigation and other stuff on the right-hand portion. Sounds great, except that I could not figure out how to return to the full screen gauge display once it had defaulted to the split screen. Sometimes I just wanted the big gauge layout. If it is possible, I sure couldn't figure it out. So that's my list of things that I think could be improved. Now let's talk about the list of things I liked. And to start, I really like this quick shifter. My last sport bike had one and I loved it there, and I love it here too. Second, I really like the luggage. It looks as good as adventure bike luggage can look. The boxes are super easy to install and remove and lock on the bike for security, and the boxes themselves are pretty huge. I didn't always ride with them installed, but when I did need them, they were excellent. And third, I really like the price and the Canadian 5-year warranty. As I said earlier, if you compare the IBEX 800 Explorer to other middleweight adventure bikes, you'll find that none of them even come close to being as fully featured as this one. And that 5-year limited warranty only adds to it. So here's my final verdict on CFMOTO's 2024 IBEX 800 Explorer. First, it doesn't feel cheap or second rate at all. It feels every bit as high quality as most of its competition. Second, its on and off-road performance indicate that it's better suited to long distance trips on the tarmac with the occasional detour in the dirt versus extended backroad exploring sessions. And third, the overall riding experience of the IBEX 800 is a great one. It's comfortable, it's fun, it's convenient, and it's confidence inspiring. If you're searching for a new middleweight adventure bike, you absolutely have to give the CFMOTO IBEX 800 a serious look. After testing this one, I'm seriously thinking about one for myself.